Today's episode sponsored by our friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, located in Melbourne, Florida. Check out their Facebook online auctions, as well as EGS expert grading services. The Gen X place to get your comics graded and in case. Shipping nationwide. Hello, welcome to an exciting episode of Codename New 202. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. Now, I'm in front of the camera as we kick off this month's comic recap. And I kind of want to take my time to kind of gather my collective thoughts. You're wondering why is that? That's because this issue, and I didn't expect this at all, is probably the most significant and meaningful issue of GIJoe ever. That's a big statement. I mean, let me break it down to you how important this issue was to me. I literally sat next to my wife and broke down and cried. That's how much this issue means to me. I'm getting a little choked up talking about it. Now, in the last month, we had a nice visit to the past, looking at Tommy Arashikage's tenure in Vietnam for the famous LLRC unit of him, Stalker, and Snake Eyes, how that beautiful friendship started. So today, this month, we're actually going to be jumping to the present and the future. Now, back in issue number 281, I mentioned that GIJoe Larry Hama has introduced a handful of new Joes, highlighted by Sherlock. Now, while I mentioned the other characters kind of quickly during those recaps, in this issue, we actually go into the backstory of two of these new Joes. And it wasn't, I was lying down, and like I do, Mrs. Codename New 202 is lying next to me as I was, skimming through this month's issue. And I hit upon these two panels, and I literally broke down and cried. Because for the first time, guys, for the first time, I have a GIJoe character that looks like me. That is me. You know what that means? I mean, I've been a fan of this icon franchise for so many years. But for the first time, I could say, this GIJoe is me. Because GIJoe introduced a Muslim, a Shia Muslim, to fight terror and be a part of GIJoe. And I think about my father who served in Vietnam, me, so many other Muslims that are lying in Arlington right now, giving their lives for a country where some people may not understand or may not know how much being American means, to be free from persecution by people like the Taliban, from Wahhabism, from Al-Qaeda, from ISIS, that hijacked our religion and that made us, afraid. That fear is what led my father or me to, give and to serve our country. The fact that we're not going to let these people, label us or hijack our religion. We're going to show that, America and Shia Islam is about compassion, is about togetherness, is about the value of all life, and that every life has meaning and value. So to hell with these people. And to finally have a GIJoe character to show what I feel and what I'm about. I literally cried, and then I ran and I messaged the people at IDW's front office for thanking them. I messaged Larry Hama thanking him. I messaged the people that I know that are really close to Larry Hama thanking them. For the first time in 30 some odd years, I have a character that looks and acts like me. I know a lot of you may not understand or comprehend what that means, and that's okay. But, a lot of you are lucky. You could pick a Chuckles, you could pick Bazooka, you could pick Barbecue, you could pick, Roadblock, you could pick Stalker. And that's all great. Even the Native Americans can pick up Ripcord, or they could pick up Spirit. I never had anybody. Never did. And that all changed with issue number 287. So we're going to look into this very special issue to me. And I hope you guys, that as you go through this, listen to my words and feel what I'm feeling, and a sense of gratitude, and a sense of belonging. You know, those stars and stripes mean just as much to me as anybody. And just because you drive a Ford F-150 or you look a certain way, being American is what's in your heart. You know, so I hope you guys, when you see a girl with the scarf on her head or something like that, you know, we face terrible persecution from the Saudis, from the Pakis, from all these bad people that I named. And, you know, we're willing to stand up. We are willing to fight for the right cause. And being in America, a place where you're free, you're literally free. I want people to realize what that means, and like how much. Don't give those dirty looks. I felt it, you know, I've seen them before. We all have, you know. It sucks to be on that end, you know, when you love a country and some people in that country don't love you back. Or even those veterans that, you know, we wear that flag, you know, that patch, and then, you know, we pray in our uniform. There's something amazing when you see a Muslim U.S. soldier in uniform praying. You know, that to me is America. So without further ado, the issue that brought me to tears, 287. Okay, so besides the emotional attachment I have, this issue is actually Larry Hama starting to put pieces for G.I. Joe's future. That's right. Now, since issue number 281, we have noticed these new characters. And to those that look at Hama with visions of the past, you are so wrong. For he is doing his part in setting up G.I. Joe to have an actual future. Characters that today's youth can identify with. Specialties related to today's special ops. I mean, he has been laying out this blueprint since issue number 281. We need to take notice, because my sources say that Hasbro sure as hell is not. Sadly, that the biggest problem is that Hasbro is not following up or working alongside Larry Hama and the IDW team. Now, during the Marvel run, we often had the complaint of Hasbro's intervention and involvement, forcing to include characters and vehicles into the storyline when, I mean, the pogo stick, I mean, that's all I have to say. And it's the total opposite problem today. So wake the hell up, Hasbro. Hama is onto something, and it will appeal to today's youth. Just give it a try. Okay, so finally we're actually going to deal with the story. And just to refresh, now since the epic showdown in Springfield in that massive 10-issue story arc between where we have G.I. Joe versus Cobra, with a twist, Zartan and Destro actually joining the G.I. Joe side of the fence and helping free Sean Collins, who's taken on the mantle of Snake Eyes. Now, things have been unusually quiet on the Cobra front. Now, we saw a few new Joes introduced in the last story that involved a possible major new Cobra villain, but it turned out to be a renegade CG. Now, counterintelligence is indicating that some activity has been picking up in a fan favorite location. And I'm talking about a return to Cobra freaking Island. A special ops team that includes the three new Joes, Sherlock, Mongoose, and Black Hat, are right off the coast with Shipwreck and Cutter bringing another favorite, the Whale, closer to the Cobra Island shoreline. Just to remind the fan base and maybe the old school fans that may have forgotten, but even after the iconic Civil War between issues 73 and 77 of the Marvel run, that Cobra has always maintained at least a skeleton crew patrolling the island. Now, we remember Cobra Island was in the backdrop of Firefly's return during issue 126. You remember he was trapped into that freighter and he used reprogrammed bats to get him out of the volcano. And he basically has been setting up shop in Cobra Island. And just to bring fans up to speed, Cobra has maintained their presence at the island ever since, even though they had most of their operations returning to Springfield. So for the, I guess, intel of having this much activity off the coast of Cobra Island is definitely something significant and worth GIJoe's attention. Going back to the story, as the Whale approaches, Cutter and Shipwreck kill the motor and the lights. They are going dark. The ops team, which includes the new Joes and old school favorites Outback and Falcon, enter and board a Zodiac, but just as a moray enters the perimeter during its standard patrol duty, while a Cobra Mamba is somewhere in the skies above. Now, knowing the high probability that they will be spotted and the current defenseless position of the Zodiac, Shipwreck, along with Polly, realize the only thing they can do is to divert both crafts away from the unit. Here's something else to note. Hama has been doing a great job in blending scenes that involved iconic old school characters that are working alongside these new Joes with their modern skill set. Now, for example, as you read this particular issue, look at Outback, Falcon, Cutter, and Shipwreck. Now, they're very much the characters we are familiar with and grew up with. So when they interact with these new Joes, it just seems like smooth, like, oh, okay. Like, it's not like forced, so to speak. Now, I'm kind of glancing over these intro panels, but they're amazing. I mean, again, this is freaking Cobra Island, and the possibility of returning as the backdrop is just got me so psyched. You can feel the tension, the higher stakes, the fact that Shipwreck's wits got the entire team from being sitting ducks in the scenario not so long ago, and that's freaking remarkable. Now, dodging that potential threat, our team washes ashore. They use this opportunity to collect themselves, check in with the Utah pit with Duke, Mainframe, and Beachhead overseeing operations from over there. Now, they decide to split up into sub-teams with New Joes, Sherlock, and Malto, the two that we saw in issue 282 and 283, a little bit more than the other two. And speaking of the other group, that's going to be Outback and the two Joes I mentioned, Mongoose and Blackout. Again, we don't really know much about them. Now, on the Cobra side, we see them building a casino. Now, if any of you visited the Bahamas, it's supposed to be like Atlantis. Regulars will recall back in the issues like the 260s, Dr. Mindbender built an updated brainwave scanner, which ironically backfired, having Dr. Venom take over and go on like a sci-fi rampage. Then that 10-issue abduction of Sean Collins, aka Snake Eyes. Now, we never found out what their plan was, as he was saved from being subjected to this new brainwave scanner. Another new favorite character, at least to me, is the first female CG called Laura. She has also been assigned to accompany Dr. Mindbender on this. Now, with our Joes scoping things out from the jungle, they noticed a few disturbing things from previous issues. Number one, the Cobra Aspid that escaped them back in issue 285 with a container marked X is being lowered down using the Cobra bats that have been altered to be construction bats. It kind of explains how this casino popped up so fast. And out comes the original brainwave scanner. The Joes realize that they need to get inside to gather more intel. Now, Mongoose, one of the new Joes, volunteers stating that he did a lot of security work back in Dearborn, Michigan prior to enlisting. Now, Black Hat asks Mongoose, hey, why did you decide to enlist? And this segues into the panels that really touched home with me. And he mentions how after 9/11, when he was a small boy, his father and him were going to attend a service at a mosque, commemorating a solemn day called Arba'in, which is 40 days after another solemn day called Ashura. And they were spray painted like, go back to your country, killers, and all this other stuff. Now, to understand, Shia Muslims that commemorate this day will be either beaten, thrown in jail, or killed in Saudi Arabia. And in Pakistan, followers of Wahhabism, the Taliban, or Al Qaeda have bombed and murdered anyone, be it man, woman, or child, that go on and attend these functions. Ashura and Arba'in are like Good Friday for Shia Muslims. That's the same level there. So imagine attending church with this fear, or hiding in someone's basement so that the Saudis or in other Wahhabis do not hear you commemorating this day because of what will happen to you. If this sounds familiar, that's because this country was founded as immigrants left facing religious persecutions overseas. And America is the only country where you're allowed to believe and practice peacefully your particular faith. So, along with Outback, Malta and Mongoose decide the best way to get inside is to ambush a Cobra on patrol in a Humvee. They take the Viper and Night Viper's uniforms and just simply drive in. Black Hat, being the computer whiz hacker on the team, is vital. The goal is to simply go in, hack in, download, and get the hell out without any altercation. Of course, Outback uses this time to tease the tied up Cobra, saying, the only reason they are alive is because they don't want to put bullet holes in their uniforms. Having no trouble, our Joes enter. They're looking for any terminal that is linked into the mainframe. Outback notices a secret door in the kitchen of all places, which takes them directly into the room that houses the brainwave scanner. So while Black Hat does her hacking thing, Mongoose returns the favor and asks her why she enlisted. She dives into her backstory, as she's the daughter of a physics professor with a mother being a pediatrician. She was a super nerd and into Star Trek and computers. While she wasn't discriminated on her background, she did face having to deal with being the only girl in all of these advanced computer classes. Suddenly, Mindbender and Laura are behind them. He asks why are they here, to which they calmly state that they're just simply running a security check. Mindbender, like a retard, asks if everything's in order, not taking a second to raise the obvious question: why would a Night Viper and two regular Vipers be conducting this test opposed to a Techno Viper? It seems Mindbender is more focused on showboating off to Laura what his plan is. He instructs the others to hook up the old to the new brainwave scanner. Our Joes use this opportunity to sneak off and return back to the whale. We end the issue with Black Hat now having to analyze and uncover Mindbender and Cobra's real intentions. Now, regardless if you're an old school fan or new and rediscovering G.I. Joe in the past few years, when you analyze the last few issues, it seems that Larry Hama is working on his endgame. Yeah, issues dealing with the past, current, and potential future of G.I. Joe. Last month, we finally got something often wondered since issue number 21, and that is, how did Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow first meet? An introduction of new Joes that today's world, especially the youth, can be drawn to. The big question is if Hasbro is listening. Being in the G.I. Joe community for so long, I've seen these Facebook groups pop up recently, and our job as real fans isn't simply to buy whatever toys are being offered. It is to pass down the values of what G.I. Joe is about, what it means, and that anyone can be a G.I. Joe in real life. I hope you go out and actually buy this issue and take a minute to reflect on some of the things I talked about. And if you could, use your social media presence. Message Hasbro. Tell them that you want them to incorporate Larry Hama's vision going forward to preserve G.I. Joe for the future. This is GIJoe. We'll see you next time.